If you're just starting your membership program, chances are you want to track your members with something that's simple and affordable. Well, this is where spreadsheets can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Success with spreadsheets is all about having a solid foundation. So this video is going to be a cheat sheet to provide you with some basic rules and a free template. Hi, my name's Mitch, and I'm the CEO and founder here at Join It. I've helped over 1,800 organizations set up their membership programs. So I've really seen it all. I've seen the mistakes and the best practices. So in this video, we're going to go through a step-by-step guide in creating a membership database in Excel. The first step into building a membership database in Excel is finalizing your data model. Now, don't be intimidated by this. I know it can sound scary, but what we're really talking about is finalizing the column names and what data will go into each row. So in this approach, when you have an Excel spreadsheet that tracks your membership data, each row will be a different member, and each column will be the respective data for each of those members. If I was building my own membership database in a spreadsheet, I'd have a data model that looked like this. In my data model, the most important columns would be membership type, expiration date, membership status, email, and contact information. So let's dive into each of these data fields in more depth. So let's start with membership types. I'm going to make an assumption here and think you're a relatively new organization. New organizations on our platform typically have between 3 to 5 different membership types. It's important to remember that a different membership type is typically the highest and broadest form of segmentation within your member database. And different membership types can carry different attributes. For example, a membership type can dictate its registration type. Does it represent an individual or a group? It can dictate things like special classes, like is it for students or senior citizens? The first component of membership types that we'll dive into is billing behavior and payment cadence. So a lot of membership types will be something like annual, one-time payment, or monthly, recurring. These type of membership types determine how much the member's paying, how often, and whether that's automatically rebilling to their payment method, or if it's something you have to reach out to them to do manually. The next component of membership types are called concessions. So typically we see a lot of membership types that are for students or alumni or senior citizens. These membership types carry a discount or a special benefit, and you want to have that broadest segmentation to really pull apart and treat these members specially. Moving on to that third bucket, we have premium memberships. This is the other side of the coin to those concession memberships. A lot of times organizations will want to segment out their VIP or platinum or premium memberships because those are the most valuable people. They want to give exclusive discounts, priority access, or special benefits to this group. So it's important to have a membership type that makes it super easy to segment and recognize these memberships. And the last common component, this might not apply to everyone, so I put it at the bottom, is registration type. A lot of times a membership type can be for an individual, or if your organization is a chamber of commerce or a professional association, you might sell business or corporate memberships that are for a group of people rather than individual. You'd segment this as well at the membership type. Now that we've defined all things membership type, and it's a big one, let's go to the next important column, which is membership status. This membership status column tracks a membership's relationship to your organization over time. The way that we see it, a membership record enters your database or spreadsheet, and over time it goes through a life cycle. They might start off as prospective, and they might apply and be pending, and then they might be active, expired, canceled. All this happens to the same membership record, but it goes through different relative states according to your organization. So this is where the status is critical to that tracking. Because in theory, you'll be dealing with so many membership records in the future, it's really important to have data validation on this field. In this case, it's so critical to have only a few options for different statuses because you want to be able to target your memberships by status. So you don't want to have hundreds or random statuses that only apply to a few memberships for specific cases. You want to really define the number of statuses available. So in our case, we have a prospective status for members that haven't joined yet, a pending status for members that might need to still be approved or might be past due in their billing. And then we have an active status, which tracks active members in good standing. We have an expired status for people who've reached the end of their membership period. And then we have a canceled status for people who proactively reached out and had a membership canceled before their expiration date of their period. This is a really important part where you build the foundation of your Excel database by being strict about the values that are available in each of the respective columns. This column is a great example of where it's important to lock down the values available so that you can use this data at a later point. Having this be a free form field that can just be filled out with notes or with random values will really hurt you in the future as your program scales. Next in the data model, we're going to talk about a column that's the expiration date of the membership. Now, memberships and statuses are points in time, and then expiration dates are when that status changes. So a lot of active memberships won't be paid through a certain period. and this will be the expiration date. For this field, it's so critical to have standardized formatting for your spreadsheet. If one admin puts in a field that doesn't include the year, or someone only includes the month, date, year, and then someone else tries to do it with date, month, year because they don't live in the US, then you're gonna have a mess. You won't be able to rely on this field when you actually need it. When you need to turn over those active statuses to expired statuses, you can't rely on this data unless you're diligent about formatting. Now, I'm going to give a real world example. Let's say you had someone join in January of 2023, and that membership goes until the end of the year in 2023. So if that member renews in the beginning of 2024, the way that we'd recommend updating the spreadsheet is updating the expiration date on that membership record. So that membership record's expiration date should then read December 31st, 2024, and it should be consistently formatted to match your other expiration dates. Additionally, we'd recommend tracking your payments in a separate tab or source. It can be also in an Excel spreadsheet, or it can be through accounting software, but it's really important not to conflate payments with membership records. When a payment is made, you update the respective membership record. Your payment ledger needs to look a certain way to match your accounting software, to reconcile your books, and you don't want to conflate that with your membership list. And often it's this expiration date and status that is the connection between the two. When someone makes that payment for 2024, you go in, you make sure their status is active, and you make sure their expiration date reflects the end of the period that they paid for. But you track your memberships in one tab and then your payments in another tab or accounting system, wherever it best fits your operations. The next column in our data model is email address. It's so important that we've broken it out from other contact information. The email is the connection between you and your member. It's how you send out payment confirmations, expiration notices, renewal reminders, all the most important communication from your organization to your member. Now that you're bringing your membership database online, or at least digital, to an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet, it's critical that you're filling out this email column whenever possible. And lastly, this is the final part of our data model, and it's the most extensible. It might be multiple columns, but we bucket it all under contact information. This is all information that you need to know about your membership. I have a fun mantra for this, which is collect as much as you need, but as little as you can. You want to be concise. You don't want to collect extra information, which could hurt your conversion rates when people are purchasing or renewing their memberships. And all that together wraps up your data model. So this is the foundation that you have to get right. It's so critical to define these fields and stick to it, because this is what you build your entire member database on. Now that we've determined your data model, let's talk about the next step in creating a membership database in Excel. The next step is determining who has access to the data, what their permissions are, and then the processes for updating that spreadsheet. Look, it's the reality of it. As your organization grows, more and more people will need access to the membership data in order to do their job. So this is where you can get into so much trouble unless you're defining who has permissions to do certain things, like they can have read-only access or update access, and then what is the standard operating procedure for actually updating that data. So to illustrate this issue, we're going to go through an example, and we're going to focus on that expiration date column that we talked about earlier. It's likely that only so many people within your organization can accept payment for a membership. So those same people that accept payment, you can assume they're also processing the renewal. So they should be the only ones who have permission to update the spreadsheet and edit that expiration date. You wouldn't want someone accepting a payment and not updating the sheet, or someone updating the sheet and their expiration date without logging the payment. This is really critical to implement these processes. Now, the second part of this is that when you're updating that data field, it needs to be in the same format. I can't stress this enough. If you have someone that's updating it in a numeric format, like year, month, date, and then someone else who's writing out December 31st, 2024, that column becomes useless. You can't sort on it, you can't filter on it, you can't search on it correctly. So you have to be incredibly disciplined and have a policy and standard operating procedure for how you update dates, data fields, whenever you're updating those membership records. Now we've talked about some basic rules, so let's dive into some features and tools within Excel and Google Sheets that'll help you make this an easy process and way more user-friendly for your admins. The first tool that we'll highlight is called column filters. If you select all the data in your spreadsheet and then you press the column filters button, you'll have sortable buttons on each of the column headers. This is so powerful. So for example, if you go to the membership status column and then you click the drop down and then you select only active memberships, the spreadsheet does all the work. It does a query and it shows only your memberships that have that active status. Now to call back, this really highlights why it's so important not to have infinite number of values here. You really need to define those potential values to a set list so that it becomes helpful when you actually do this sort and filter on the column headers. Additionally, you want to see who's up for renewal soon? Go to the expiration date and filter and sort. If you want to see only people that have upcoming expirations while their status is active, you can combine these two column filters to get that data. Moving on to the next game-changing Excel feature is called data validation. And we've touched about it a lot as a best practice, but here's how you actually implement it within your software. In this example, we're going to apply data validation to the membership types column. And this is because we don't want infinite membership types. We only want a set defined membership type, and we don't want our admins to stray from that for special cases that aren't approved by our standard data model. So highlight the membership types column and then go to select data. Under that data menu, select data validation. Choose list from a range as your validation criteria, and then specify the range containing your organization's defined membership types. This ensures that only approved membership types can be assigned to memberships. This keeps your data consistent and, most importantly, usable. And the last game-changing tool we have is called conditional formatting. With conditional formatting, you can format cells conditional to the value they represent. My favorite conditional format is with the status header. So in that status field, you have different statuses like active or pending or expired. An easy way to make this data viewable and a better user experience is to make the format of the cell, like the text color or the background color, change depending on the value, whether the status is active or expired. And of course, it dynamically updates when you change the value. Isn't that cool? Now that we've covered all the basics for determining your data model, the rules for setting up and managing your data, and then also some of the coolest features in Excel and Google Sheets, it's time to turn it over to you. And we do that by providing a free template. This template has all the important headers that we talked about in your data model. Things like the membership type, the membership status, expiration date, and everything else. This template is pre-formatted and ready to go. So we've already implemented some of the best tools like data validation and conditional formatting. We're sharing it to you in Google Sheets. However, you can easily go to File, Download As, and then Microsoft Excel to save the template in an Excel format. Now that you have all the tools to build your membership database in Excel, let's briefly go over the pros and the cons of this approach. Now, on the pro side, the biggest one is it's free to use. If you already have access to Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, then there's no additional cost. This is huge for organizations that are just getting started. And of course, if you're just getting started, it's simple. It's simple to start tracking your membership data and putting it in there. This system works well, especially if you're under 100 members. Now, I hate to say, there are some cons, and the cons typically happen once you start scaling past 100 members. It comes down to data standardization. We talked about some tools like data validation, which can help in standard operating procedures, but let's be honest, if multiple people need access to the spreadsheet and multiple people need update access especially, your data is going to fall out of format. It's going to be less standardized and it's going to become hard to use. Also, those data fields can be isolated. It's really hard to connect a spreadsheet to other platforms. So if you're using MailChimp for email marketing and Eventbrite for events, and you're really trying to tie that all together without specialized software, it's really hard to get that next step of value. I'd say that spreadsheets are really good for tracking those memberships and especially those first 100 memberships. But as soon as you start to reach scale and cross 100 memberships and need 3 different admins editing that data and need to connect that data to do certain tasks like automating renewal reminders, expiration notices, taking automatic payments, that's when it really starts to fall apart. So take it from me, if you're just getting started, go with the simple, go with the easy, try it in Excel. But if you need something more, we'd love to help you out. If you think you're ready to explore your first formal membership solution, reach out to us. You can email us at support@joinit.com or follow along on this channel. Here we talk about all things membership, best practices, and innovations. So if that interests you, I'd love for you to follow along. Or check out our next video where we answer the question, how long does it take to launch a membership system? See you on the next one.